Marcos, hi. Michelle, Astrospection on Twitter. You can also call me your Lord of Nemesis, because you're going to enter this next period of affliction in your life. I'm so sorry. But are you ready to go completely combust? Ready to go under the beams? See you there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcos, an astrologer from Brazil, and I'm here to tell you about Astrology Deathmatch. And I'm wearing my gi because I'm going to challenge you, Michelle, Mitchell, Mikhail, Michael. I don't care what your name is. I don't care where you're from. Astrospection. This Saturday, we are going to fight. It's a death match. We're going to the ring and one of us will die. I'm going to take you to the eighth house. And then you're going to fall to your IC. Except that we're not going to be in the same room, actually. Going to be very far from each other. And we're just going to guess things from charts in a friendly manner. But it's a fight, and I challenge you.
Welcome to Astrology Deathmatch number 4. I am Alex Harper, and joining me is my co-host Alberto.
Hey
Hey, how you
everybody.
doing, Alberto?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a hot match. I think the tension has been building. I can almost taste it.
Yeah, I know. It's like these guys are really going at each other because we have Michelle and Marcos joining us for this death match. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We've got
Hi. Hello,
Michelle
Alex. Hello, Alberto.
and Marcos.
Hi,
These
Hello, I'm
guys
sorry. I
are
said
gonna tear it up tonight, right?
You can't even pronounce my name. So
Well,
rude.
just
So
pronounce
rude.
your name. How do I pronounce it?
I don't know. Somebody please pronounce it to me so I can finally learn.
Uh,
yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. It's constant topic of conversation.
so, let's get right into it here. Let's go. Um, Here we go. So, first question up on the board. Um, International versus domestic, right? One of these people is an international web developer, right? Travels around a lot for work. The other person has held odd jobs, including working with dogs as a groomer and a trainer. Um, I don't know. What did you guys think about this one? Who wants to go first?
Marcus, you want to go first or do I?
Ah, okay. So, well, I thought this would be the easy one. And when I started judging it, I realized I was dead wrong. Because when I read the question, I said, okay, one of them is inconstant, the other isn't. Piece of cake. And one of them works uh, with abroad. So there must be a connection between the ninth house and the 10th house, but both have it. So uh, um, my answer was that the first chart, the one with, let me check it here, with Gemini, I'm sorry, rising, is
Rising, yeah.
the one with the odd jobs. Why? Because this person is highly phlegmatic, which tends to be inconstant. It's not phlegmatics tend not to persevere, and he was doing lots of different jobs, and the ruler of the 10th is in the 6th house. He worked with small animals, and you said the question mentioned he was into herbalism and occultism, and Mercury is conjunct Altair, the rising eagle. So I thought this one was the one with the odd jobs, and the other one with Leo rising and the sun in the 7th house of other people, with Mercury in the 8th house of other people's money, and the role of the 9th house right into the 10th house would be the one that has many business abroad. Uh, and I think that that is all. I mean, there is connection between the 9th and the 10th in the first chart, but this is my answer.
Okay, great answer. Michelle, what did you get for this one?
I got the same answer, so let me get that right out of the way. Great
Okay, so
minds,
you're also
thanks.
saying A is the domestic.
Yeah, A is
Yeah.
domestic, B is international. But I think the labeling of domestic versus international was kind of a red herring. I based most of my decision on the fact that one of them has had many odd jobs, including pet grooming, and the other one is mostly a more stable, successful, uh, software developer or coder, however you want to call it. Um, so here's the I based it a lot on all those um, delineations for profession, which is based on Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and where they're located and if they're angular. So chart A with with Gemini rising, it has Venus and Mars very angular, and Mars rules the sixth house of small animals and service as well, work for others. So with Venus there in that conjunction with Mars, it combines it with beauty and being in the tense. It has a lot to do with activity and profession. So it fits for if somebody has worked in pet grooming. Then you have Saturn ruling the midheaven from the sixth house, also involving pets service. Mars, ruler of the sixth sign, fifth house, afflicting, the moon. It is a day chart, so it makes the affliction worse. It is in the sky, so it's very potent. Um, so that could indicate very easily, especially in a mutable sign like Pisces, it could indicate professional instability, many odd jobs, not constancy. And then, I would expect to see more of a more angular Mercury if he was a coder. But a cadent Mercury makes it, less inclined towards mercurial activities like, software engineering. Chart B, on the other hand, has an angular Mercury in very good condition, with support from the triplicity, from the segments of that Mercury. And I was completely in agreement with Marcus when he said that this chart is more phlegmatic. Sorry, the other chart is more phlegmatic. So coding, I would expect that it is also less phlegmatic than for example, working with animals. Um, and out of the seven rulers, this chart only has one in the seven traditional rulers. It only has one in a water sign, which is that Venus in the eighth sign. The other one has four out of seven. So it's just my opinion that just based on that, I would go with chart A for domestic, chart B for international.
Okay, great. Those are both really good answers, guys. Now, let's just pop over and see what people on Twitter said, because we were running a poll on this. Um, so here we go. People said, all right, so it looks like the audience is with you guys. They're saying A is the domestic and B is the international. I screwed up here on labeling this response, but it looks like most of you guys caught on to that, thankfully. Yeah, everyone gets a point. Michelle, Marcos, and the audience get a point here for this one.
Yay.
So that's good.
Yeah,
Everyone got it right. Awesome.
good.
Great start. Hopefully this continues. Um,
And
all right, let's
we
go to the
please the
next.
audience.
Huh? I'm
And we
sorry.
please the audience. That's a good point.
Yes, yes.
We live to please.
So let's go to the next one then. Here we go. All right. So this is a transit question, right? We have to determine what happened to this person on a date. So we've got a birth date, and we've got a time of an event, and four choices for what that event could be, right? So, did this person move their house, get a vasectomy? Was their father in a car accident, or did they quit their job for a political reason? Um, all right. Marcos went first last time, so Michelle, why don't you take a crack at this one?
All right, all right, all right, all right. Initially, I was leaning towards C, father in car accident, based on a natal promise kind of thing. I do see Mars in the third sign from the ascendant. Involving cars, commuting could there it could be a promise, and the ruler of the fourth house, signifying parents, the father, is Mercury in the 12th. It could also mean accidents and losing one's father. But ultimately, too many indications were going in the way of D. D quit for political reasons. This is a native that at that time was 27 years old. That's a fourth house year. I like to perfect a lot from the sec-light, especially when it comes to things like profession and status
Yes.
in society. And that fourth signs from the moon, which is the sec-light, arrives to Aries, and that is a Mars rule sign. Mars is the ruler of the 11th, Aries, and the 6th, which is it involves it is a house of work. And at that time, Mars was transiting over the ninth house midheaven, or the ninth sign midheaven, if you're using whole sign houses like I do. So ninth house is a house of politics, ideology, um, activism in a way. The MC is an important significator for activity and what one is known for, especially in the profession. And Mars was right on the or close to the midheaven in both the solar revolution and the transits of this event. Um, so this is also activating a natal opposition between Mars and Saturn, and Jupiter and Saturn, both in the third. So there is already a natal promise in this person's life of clashes over politics, ideology, and it could easily involve the work because of the significators involved. Um, so it also made me think that the previous year was a third house year, counting from the ascendant. That activated that Mars and Jupiter, counting sign by sign, and Saturn was transiting through Sash at that time. it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this is, just my speculation that he got the job the previous year, and since the issues over politics became to grow up and build up, then next year that made him quit over whatever the conflict was. And last but not least, the solar revolution had Jupiter rising in the natal Mars ruled sixth house in Scorpio. And this highlights becoming, free from a very difficult work situation that involves conflict and a great deal of ideology because Jupiter is there. So that's my answer.
Great, great. I love that. I love how you went even into the solar revolutions to check that out. That's really cool to see the continuity there. Marcos, what did you get for this question?
I just realized that I cheated, but I don't know if the cheating worked. But I think Michel cheated a bit too, because he started his answer with the transits, and I saw Mars on the south node and conjunct the midheaven, and I saw that opposition, but I decided to check the perfections and progressions first. So my
Yes,
answer
yes, no,
is
that is totally allowed to check other
okay.
things. You don't have to rely just on transits. You can look
Cheater.
at progressions. You can look at any kind of timing technique you want. We just have the transits up here because that's what most people are going to be familiar with, especially people that aren't as familiar with astrology. Transits one of the first timing techniques you learn, and you use them along with these others. So it's totally fine. I would have done the same thing. I would have looked at progressions, as well. So that's totally okay.
Okay, I feel less bad about it now. uh, uh, and let me check my notes. Okay, and the perfections for that time, the Sun is conjunct the 12th by intuition, and if it's conjunct the 12th, it's opposed the 6th house, and the 6th house can mean surgeries and health related stuff. And perfected Venus, who is the ruler of the 6th, is on, and the North Node are both on the 6th cusp, and the perfected MCIC hit the Mercury Pluto opposition, which is a hard one. And in the progressions, there are a lot of things involving the uh, ascendant and descendant and the moon. If I didn't forget to put anything on my notes, the progressive ascendant opposes the natal moon by addition. The progressive moon crosses the progressive descendant and opposes the progressive sun. Um, the progressive fortuna crosses the progressive descendant. Um, and both the moon and fortuna conjunct the natal moon twice, first by body and then by intuition. So I thought it was a body thing, and the only one that fit the bill was a vasectomy.
Okay, great. That's you really went deep on that one. That's great. All right, well, let's before we give the answer, let's check and see what the audience voted for this one. Okay, so they say father in car accident. Oh, so we've got three different answers. All right. Um, so the correct answer actually is B, the vasectomy answer, right? So Marcos gets a point here. Um, I wanted to point out, in addition to all of the things that Marcos pointed out, um, we have the perfection year is from Scorpio, or from the ascendant is a sixth house year. We've got Mars opposite Jupiter, right? And we've got Uranus squaring Mars, right? So just from like a quick and dirty kind of thing, a lot of times if you see you know, I like to check the outers, right? And they can often give you like a confirmation of these other things that people do. So um, you know, that Uranus is almost exactly square, right? It's degree minutes away. You know, Uranus is unexpected disruptions, right? And you know, I bet that, you know, this guy's seminal vesicles were not expecting that disruption, right? Um, so we also have Sun here is in or sorry, we have the moon in the 8th from the natal moon, right? So that's another, um, or no, it's the 6th from the natal moon that it's in. So you know, we've got that being triggered as well. So I I I liked both of your guys' answers, and the quitting the job for the political reason is definitely that would definitely be a number 2 choice for me as well, because there's definitely some
To be
indicators of that. Um, so yeah, good job. Let's go on to the next one. Also,
You're
can
in the
has
lead.
my screen changed color?
can I say
No,
one
you.
thing?
Okay, go ahead.
I had to be honest. When I was listening to Michelle, I thought, oh, I screwed it up. I thought,
No,
no,
but
he's
you were
right and
right,
I'm wrong.
man. You were just, you were right. You know, you
Yeah.
saw a lot of indications to the moon. That is body, and that would have to do with procreation as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
There
but
is a lot going on.
your reason was so compelling, I think. I said, oh, no, I screwed it up.
This
I'm sorry.
trips you up. This trips you up.
Let's go to another one.
Yes, yes. All right, going on to the next one.
Right.
Okay, so number 3 is ayahuasca shaman versus psychotherapist. All right, so one of these people is employed as an ayahuasca shaman, the other works as a psychotherapist. We need to tell who is who. Um, okay, well, let's just keep going back and forth. Marcos, what did you think about this question?
Okay. Uh, I think this was probably the hardest one because both professions have a lot in common. And, you know, different people have different motivations for doing what they do. So this was not an easy one. But here we go. Chart A. I calculated the temperament, and the guy is hot, sanguine, choleric. Um, his Moon and Mercury, the Mercury is in a fire cardinal sign and rising. It's mercurial activities are important to him, and mercurial active stuff, not brainy air sign stuff, but fire um, kind of activities in a hot temperament, so it must be important. His moon is in a water phase. It's in the last phase, but it's in a fixed air sign. So someone who who's I forgot the term. Sorry, someone who's processing of information and thinking about the world comes from the water, from the emotions and desires and phlegm, but it's presented in a rational, organized air type of way, and there's a close opposition between this moon and Mars, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, there it is. And we have the ruler of the 10th. So just explain the opposition. I mean, this moon opposes uh, uh, Mars, in which is the 8th house, which rules the 8th house of death. And the ruler of the 10th career is conjunct the 6th house of sickness, but it could be connecting to the 12th house, which has something to do with mental states and things like that. It was a hard one, but I think this is the shaman, but it could be the psychotherapist. But and
So you're going with A
chart
as the
B.
shaman.
And chart B, the temperament is phlegmatic, is colder than the other, but it's also moist. The moon, although it's not in an air sign, it's also in a water phase and a water sign. So it also processes things through phlegm, from water, desires, and stuff like that. And it is conjunct the sun. So it not only is important in this chart, but it conjuncts things related to the sun. And the sun has a connection to mind, to the light from above, and they both oppose Saturn, which is the ruler of the 8th. Again, there's an opposition between the moon and the ruler of the 8th in both charts. So, but thinking about a little bit deeper in this chart, although I'm still not totally sure. I think this one is the psychotherapist because of the moon being not only in a water phase but in a water sign, more obviously related to emotions and into the 12th house. So that's my take.
Okay, great. Michelle, what did you get for this one?
So I agree. This was a close one. At least it was for me. Yeah, one would think that somebody with such an angular rising Mercury would be involved in some sort of like talk therapy, especially ruling the third sign, right? So it's a lot of frequent communication. But that also could be hosting people in certain communities. The third house being opposed to the ninth has a lot to do with religion as well, and it is a house of regular practice, congregation of people, and that periodicity and that group thing. It feels more in the line of somebody who assists frequently ayahuasca rituals and hosts them, and is the shaman in that type of situation. The other chart, on the other hand, has a lot of ego dissolution. I would be so that throws me off at first, because that moon right in the heart of the sun, hosting the first house, but right in the heart of the sun, completely below it, below the light, and then uh, the midheaven is ruled by Jupiter in the 12th, conjoined the ruler of the 12th, which is Mercury. So there could be a lot of what you could expect in an ayahuasca ritual, which is people going to altered states of consciousness. Sometimes they vomit, they lose control of their bodies, they need assistance. So it's not as controlled as a psychotherapy, an average psychotherapy session would be. But then in the end, I chose that A is I shows that A is the shaman and B is the psychotherapist, just like Marcos. And here's mostly what did me in this direction. Psychotherapy is a secular activity. It is not inherently spiritual or religious, whereas a shaman is by definition already a religious role, and it's just go hand in hand with an ayahuasca ritual to have a spiritual experience, or maybe some people won't define it like that, but it's many do. And this chart A has a very angular Jupiter, exalted too. It's a very strong indication of something that maybe is in private, hidden environments, like the fourth house and the IC would signify. But a lot happens there. That's where a lot of fortune is. Jupiter is right there in very strong fashion, whereas the other chart has Jupiter, very, hidden away, or you know, a rug, swept under the rug in a cadence 12th house, and at the mercy of whatever Mercury is doing there. And then chart B has a very strong signature of one-on-one interaction, which is very commonplace in psychotherapy. Is Talk therapy tends to be one-on-one, except in group, but there's a lot of back and forth with a certain client. It is client work. It is not group work with groups, but with one person. And this this dark moon in Cancer, this almost well, not Cassimi, but this moon in the heart of the sun is right opposed to a domiciled Saturn in the seventh as ruler of the seventh. So this, it seems to me, strongly indicative of conversations and back and forth, one on one with a client. That it is also somebody that is challenged in ways, somebody that is set in their ways. Like Saturn in Capricorn would symbolize somebody that needs help with overcoming obstacles and getting unstuck in a way, which what Saturn would signify. And that's where all that Cancer energy comes from, including the lot of fortune. So there's a lot of this is already has such an important size in this native's life that it would surprise me if it wasn't part of their profession. So yeah, that's
Nice. Alberto, I'm just now remembering that I haven't asked you your opinion on any of these questions so far. I've just been blazing right through them. I
No, that's
apologize. Did you have any thoughts on this before we checked what the audience says?
Yeah, sure. I think it is a tricky one. I wanted to just point out some things that folks haven't mentioned. So,
Yeah.
first of all, like 12th house, hospitals, prisons, shaman don't work in hospitals, doctors do. That's one thing. The kind of Aries ascendant feels much more like I mean, I have Mercury in Aries. It's a little more combative and fiery and passionate, maybe even inspired, whereas the Cancer ascendant says caring to me, more of a nurturing kind of a thing. I was also looking at like the shaman, or the first chart, where with Pluto, there, we could call it the sixth or the seventh, but that's kind of the underworld. Maybe this is where this person lives or transacts all the time. It's not true for the other one. And then finally, if you look at Neptune as a symbol of drugs or intoxication, in the first one, it's in this fiery, spirited ninth house of serious religion, as Michelle was saying. And in the other one, it's more of either the workaday sixth, like I'm going to be prescribing you these medications to deal with your issues. I'm going to balance your needs as a person, over here, the moon and the sun, with these things. I'm the authority. I've got the prescription pad here. I'm the Saturn here. So those are just a couple of things. It's definitely not an easy challenge, but it's a fascinating pair of charts, Alex.
Yeah, yeah. This is really hard because these are kind of similar. They're both kind of delving into the realms of the psyche, right? So it is gonna be difficult to tell them apart. I mean, I agree with I love everything everyone has said so far. Most of you guys have said most of the things that I would. I particularly liked Michelle talking about Jupiter being in the fourth with the hidden place. But also, we've got the outer planets here. So we've got the angular Mercury Pluto opposition, and then there is these three outer planets are connected through a sextile and then a semi-sextile. Between both of them, and this also gets the moon in this pattern, right?
Oh
And
yes.
so all of these planets are, kind of synergizing together, and right, like the moon, the sublunary realm with the outers, making these aspects to these outers, like it just seems to me like this is because we got moon trine Pluto, we got moon square Uranus, we got moon sextile Neptune. The moon is hitting all of these outers, and when I think of an ayahuasca trip, I think outer planets, right? Like forging into like the unknown and the collective subconscious. So both got this right. A is the ayahuasca shaman, and B is the psychotherapist. Let's check and see what the audience thought. Here we go.
Marcos, we did it. We did it, buddy.
Looks like this was a tie, 50-50 tie with the audience. So that just goes to show just how difficult this one was. Yeah, this was a tough one.
Yeah.
So there was one thing before we go back to the next question. You guys both of you guys have been talking about temperament, right? Like phlegmatic versus choleric and all this other stuff. Now, some of the audience may not be familiar with what you're talking about because this is, kind of some traditional stuff. So would anyone like to just briefly explain temperament and how you've used it in these questions?
I mean,
Well,
temperament
Either
is
one
not
of
a
you.
big part of my practice, but roughly speaking, temperament tries to boil down to core qualities that you have a fourfold system of qualities, but you can also mix them up. Somebody can be more of one and another, so it's not just like one defining quality that not only describes their character, but it can also be used in medical astrology for delineating sickness and healing. And there is not one single method for determining temperament. So it is a very qualitative endeavor. You have to assess different things. Everybody probably have their own method, and even when you're going down to the nitty gritty, and you have different significators in the chart pulling in different directions. You have to really think it through, and it's not necessarily a clear cut thing. That's just my 2 cents.
yeah, I totally agree.
Cool.
I always start my judgment by calculating it, but it's not always important. And as Michel said, it may be, we may see a chart, and every astrologer would agree on the temperament of the person. And when it happens, it is usually very important in the native's life. But different methods assess it in different ways. So sometimes I would say something, oh, this is temperament A, or Michelle would say, no, it's B, or it's a mixture of A and B. In those cases, it's not as important. I would just
Right.
like to add one thing, because if some listener is curious and wants to check it online, please don't listen to psychologists, especially when psychologists are not astrologers. They think this is just psychological types, and the temperaments are more in the body than in the mind, or are in the connection of both. And
Yeah.
when we forget about astrology, we forget about the body and think this is just a Jungian type of dividing people in different psychological types, and it's not that. But,
I liked what you said about how if it's not clear, if there's like not one clear winner for temperament, or if it looks mixed, then you don't really pay attention to it that much. And that's something that in astrology we do a lot, where the things that are like emphasized and are louder, we want to pay attention to, like an angular planet, we're going to pay much more attention to than a cadent planet. Right? Just like with the temperament, if the temperament is a strong signature for one of them over the others, then that's probably going to be more important than
Right.
if it's like a mixture, right? Would you agree with that?
Right.
yes.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
also,
just
everything in
Go ahead.
astrology is like contextual. Like you have a lot of techniques and ideas and metaphors and whatnot, but you cannot use them all. It's too big of a toolbox. So you go to the scene of the crime, if you will, and then based on what you see, you decide what you have to pull. Of course, you have your favorite tools, and another astrologer will have different tools. But like for example, if you're thinking of like a concept that maybe many people know, like void of course moons, that could signify things not going anywhere, but only if the context allows it, only if the situation allows it. If you're giving a chart and they don't tell you if it's a person or a duck or a movie, you know context is king. That's and
I
Right.
and
hate I
then
hate
based on
doing duck
context you
charts.
decide.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what makes these quizzes such a bitch, right? Is because the context that I decide to give can sometimes be, misleading or counterintuitive. Um, so,
I
um, yeah,
I
go ahead,
just I
Alberto.
just want to add. I think maybe an even simpler thing about temperament is that it's based on the element, the theory of elements and seasons and the moon phase and things like that. And there's a really amazing book by Dorian Greenbaum called
Mhm.
Temperament: Astrology's Lost Key or something like that. And you know, as these guys said, like a lot of things in astrology, there's like 16 different recipes for it. But she comes up with a good one. She had worked in a school and she had gotten the charts of like dozens of children at the school and also observed them and their behavior and sort of fine tuned a little thing. So anyway, temperament is something I'm glad to hear you guys mention that because I think it is a fascinating thing and it is quite different than Myers Briggs or any of the others. Actually, Jung was inspired by the classical temperament theory to create Myers Briggs, except it was separated from any
Right.
physical reality.
Right. Right. Right.
Also, hello everyone in the chat. Thanks for turning out, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I think we are going to just jump right back into the next question here.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. Um, Here we go. Yes, this one.
Ooh, this is a
All
good one.
right. Yeah, this is so these are for so
My
far we've been
favorite.
looking at natal charts, right? But you can also cast a chart for any moment, right? And these are charts for events, right? So in one of these charts, a murder happened at that moment, and in another chart there was a first date that occurred. So the challenge before our contestants, Michelle and Marcos, is to determine which chart is the murder and which chart is the first date. Now, just for the audience sake, there is the score right now. I believe is Marcos. What is the score, Alberto?
Marcos by one. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So here we go. Let's get ready. Since um, um, Michelle, yeah, go ahead. Anyone who wants to go.
I
You
think
you
it's Michelle
Marcos, I
then.
mean, mine's pretty short.
Yeah, you go first then.
Yeah, mine's pretty short. I saw the two charts and it was so freaking obvious to me that the next 10 minutes I spent deciding if you, Alex, were trying to trick us. Because to me, it's just so starkly one is the murder and one is the first date that it just, made me think that there's something afoot here. But I'm just gonna say it. Chart A, ruler of the ascendant, is Venus, and it's Venus very close to Jupiter in Jupiter's house, very favored. very romantic, if you will, very hopeful. Sounds like a first date and like a good one. I don't love that they are averse to the ascendant, but Sash and Taurus are in Contrantisha anyway, so there is some connection, and it's still the ruler of the ascendant. If you don't go by that ruler, then you can go to the moon, one of the triplicity rulers, and she is in Cancer and in the third house, domiciled in her own place of joy. Sounds like going out. Then I go to chart B. Both malefics in a malefic ruled house, in the first house, advancing towards the ascendant. This is some nasty can I say shit? This is some nasty shit. This is not. If this was the first date, I'm sorry for them. I hope there wasn't a second one. I'm going on this one. I hope I'm not wrong, because it's just so. Both malefics rising in the malefic ruled house are very emphasized. And yeah, while Venus is exalted in the fifth, the malefic signature in the first house is so strong, and that I just don't see this being any other way. So A, first date; B, murder.
Okay. What did you get, Marcos?
While I see what Michelle said, I also thought this was tricky. Not a tricky charge, but I thought, okay, Alex is trying to trick us. But my reasoning was in the first one, the ruler of the first and the ruler of the seventh don't like each other much. They're not in any kind of good reception, although they are an aspect. But Venus applies directly to Jupiter, which is usually a good thing, but Jupiter rules the eighth house of death. So I thought, this is murder. And the second one, although there is the North Node on the eighth cusp, I thought, oh, the ruler of death, kind of like the ruler of the first, and both rulers and the seventh, Michelle said, we have Venus exalted. So I thought the second one was a date, although after having heard Michelle, I don't think it was a good date, if it was a date.
Right, could have been just like, we don't know what kind of date it was.
But yeah, so the first murder, the second a date.
Right. Cool. Well, let's check and see what the audience thought about this one. All right, so they say that chart A is the first date, chart B is the murder. They agree with Michelle, and Michelle and the audience are correct in this instance.
Boo!
Yes, chart A is the
Are you
first
booing
date,
your-
and chart B is the murder.
Is this a tie?
No, I'm joking.
Yay, we're
So now
tied
it's
again.
all tied up. Yeah, it's all tied up now. Michelle and Marcos are all tied up. Now, I just wanted to say, yeah, Michelle, you are right about this malefic rising. I mean, this first house here, the first whole sign house of Scorpio, is pretty fucking gnarly, right? Like it's we got Pluto, Saturn, and Mars all together, all angular, all rising. It's yeah, it doesn't look great, does it? Now, Alberto, you had an interesting thought on this question. Do you want to tell them about your forensic astrology theories?
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, there are people that look at event charts for crimes and try to determine what happened, and some of them are actually quite amazing. It's sort of they use a lot of horror thinking. So in this case, if we take B as a murder chart, the victim is the ruler of the ascendant. So the victim would actually be Mars, and Mars has domicile there. And the assailant or the perpetrator would be Venus, Lord of the seventh, and Venus is in the fourth house. And I think this is telling a really interesting poetic story. So, long story short, this chart was this man, his son had been abused by I don't know, I can't remember, a teacher or gym teacher or something like that, and the victim was being taken back in custody by a police. So the Saturn is the police. It's retrograde. It's going back, and it's with the victim. The victim is actually Mars in this case. The father was waiting in the airport with a gun as the police brought the abusing man into the airport, and he did not become charged with this murder. He killed the man, and he's exalted Venus in the fourth house of the father. Um, just to throw a couple of other details into this, I looked up Nemesis. The asteroid Nemesis was on Pluto was on the asteroid Nemesis, or vice versa, at this time. And the fixed star Dubhe, I don't know how to pronounce it, Dubhe. It's in Ursa Major, and it's the primal protective mother that has a rage to protect the children. Was on the MC.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So for those that so what Alberto's referencing is that this murder, actually, you can look it up online. It's Gary Plausch. Gary Plausch is the murderer, and he murdered the guy that was sexually abusing his son at the airport, like Alberto described. And he admitted to it, and didn't even go to prison. He got probation for this. Um, so yeah, um, kind of an interesting murder case, right? Usually murders wind up with someone going to prison, but he killed the guy, admitted it, said why he did it, and then no one would wanted to send him to prison for it. So, um, interesting event. Um,
Was it like a trial, like a jury trial?
So it actually resolved with a plea agreement. So because what happened was, he was basically like, look, like I did this, and this is why, and they were going to run basically a justified, like, because like you can essentially in a trial you can say, all right, yeah, I broke the law, but I was justified, and this is why. And then that's up to the jury, right? It's kind of a jury nullification. And I think
Mm,
that probably I don't know this is my speculation, but what I think happened is that the state saw that they were likely to lose on this because it's in Louisiana, right? These people
right,
are not going to be very friendly towards, pedophiles, right? Especially in
right.
a state like that. And I think the state saw the writing on the wall, and that this guy would probably end up getting off on a trial, so they gave him a lesser plea to like manslaughter or something like that, and he had to be on probation for like 5 years or something.
Oh yeah, actually, I wasn't. I'm sorry. Another important detail is that the abuser was only sentenced to community service for
Oh,
abusing the child for over a year. So there
oh,
was a kind of real humiliation. I mean, if we take the Venus as the father, it's being ruled by Jupiter, in Capricorn, the law, the authorities, right? And the sun is another symbol of the father. It's kind of touching. The father and the sun, Mercury and the sun, are in the fifth of children. It's almost as if he's thinking about that, that sun.
right.
Right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could also take the sun to be the father. It's just so perfectly trying Mars, or Saturn
Yes.
being the ruler of Aquarius, the fourth sign, and it is retrograde and waiting for Mars. So you could look at it from so many ways, but it speaks loudly to what actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at one last thing is if you look at the first chart, the lords of the first and the lord of the seventh are exactly trine. So that would not really, that doesn't really describe a murder. That describes more of a happy, a date, a social thing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. This Venus Mars trine. I mean, the one thing I thought about the first date chart that could trip people up is this Saturn here, right? This Saturn casting almost like Mars is applying to a square with Saturn, right? And it's really tight. So, um, you might think that's not great, right? Like that, like Saturn square Mars is a pretty harsh aspect, so people might not think that, but it could also be, Saturn square Mars could also be like, something being activated that's gonna last, right? Like, and this couple they met in 2019 and they are still together. Um, so yeah, shout out if you're watching. I actually got this chart during a consult not too long ago. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was a really cool chart because it was, there's like obvious romantic indicators, but there's also this tension here that I thought made it not completely obvious that this was something good, right? This Mars Saturn
Right.
square.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that was my rationale with that. All right. Did we check what the audience said for this? I don't think we have. So the audience, they were right. They got it right. Okay, cool. So now it's all tied up. I think it's all tied up. So you guys want to go right into the next one?
Sure.
The
Let's
last
go.
one. All right, here we go. So this one is probably the hardest one. Um, so we've got four charts here, right? And uh, three of them come from people that have large families, right? Large immediate families. Three of these charts have 5 to 6 siblings each. One chart is an only child, right? Um, so our thing is to choose the only child, right? That's what they need to do. They need to pick which one of these people doesn't have any brothers or sisters. So, um, yeah, there we go. Let's see. Michelle, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. This one is tough. I'm not sure at all of my answer because it's very, very. If in the previous one I went with the obvious answer, in this one I went with the non-obvious answer at all. So the thing, just for a brief preamble, the thing with finding out who's the only child. I'm an only child, so and I've met a lot of only children natives. I tend to think that it has to do with, of course, third house and the condition of the ruler, a lot of siblings and the condition of the ruler, and then you know sometimes I think Mars has a lot to do with that as a natural significator for brotherly conflict. And if it is in one of the cold fertile signs, probably will be somebody with a lot of siblings. If it is in a barren sign, probably not. But I had all kinds of indications in these charts going one way or another. I wasn't too sure. So ultimately, I chose as the only child the one with it is chart B, the one with Jupiter in Sag in the third, which sounds like what? That sounds like a lot of siblings. Yeah, it could be. Maybe I'm wrong, but hear me out. This Jupiter is, yes, domiciled. Yes, it is a day chart, but it is below the horizon. It is in a Caden. Well, the third house is always a Caden chart. House, I mean. And Jupiter is also retrograde, afflicted by an opposition to the Sun, which is like, coming to be exact. Uh, the Sun is in a barren sign as well, and this chart has Mars and Saturn both aspecting by sign Jupiter, whereas Venus is not. So it seems to me that there's some restrictions around children, no, sorry, siblings and whatnot. Now this could be a person who has a lot of siblings and problems with them, or it could be somebody that is an only child and has a lot of very sibling like friends that have like filled that role in this person's life. I don't know. But the other charts, and I don't want to go over each single one. They all had indications to me that had either a lot of siblings in good condition, or its ruler, or the ruler of the third in some way boosted. Like for example, in chart A, you can see the ruler of the third is Saturn, and Saturn is in such an opposition to Venus, like such a partial opposition to Venus, and with reception because Venus is Saturn's host. I think this is a person with a lot of siblings. But full disclosure, this is the one that I'm least certain of. So just
Yeah. This one
Marcus, you
is
want
the
to go?
hardest one for sure. Yeah. What did you
You
think,
left it for
Marcos?
last for a reason.
Yeah. Uh, Building on what Michelle just said, I looked at the ruler of the third and Mars and any general testimony of fertility, because fertility means potential of siblings and potential of children and things like that. The first one was the only one I think I was sure that was not the right one, to be honest, because uh, there is this closer position, as Michelle said, with Venus and Scorpio. Not very dignified, but in a fertile sign. And the moon just entered Cancer. It's not directly related to siblings, but it's a testimony of fertility potential. Chart B. I didn't go with chart B because it's Jupiter, because it's the ruler of abundance in his own sign. But I can see what Michelle is saying here. I chose the chart C as the one with no siblings. Why? Because the ruler is Saturn, and Saturn has no aspect to anyone else. Okay, we have a general testimony of fertility here, the Jupiter and the Moon, but I don't know, it's Saturn, sterile planet on a sterile sign with no close aspect by anyone. And chart D, I didn't think it was because it was ruled by Venus. Venus is the third house, right? Is ruled by Venus. Mars is in a fertile sign. Venus is not in a fertile sign, but it's not on a sterile sign. It's not in Leo, in Gemini, or in Virgo. And she had a decent aspect with Saturn, with mutual reception. So I chose C.
Okay.
Is that so? Yes, I chose C. I'm just checking my notes. I'm sorry.
Well, unfortunately, it turns out you are both wrong. The correct
Yeesh.
answer is that chart D is the one without any siblings, right? Now, what possible rationales for this could there be? Um, so, if we look at the others, right? So, chart C, the ruler of the third is Saturn, right? Saturn's here. The south node is also in the third house in Capricorn by whole sign, right? And the south node kind of decreases things, right? And so you'd expect Saturn ruling the third to inhibit siblings, and the south node there is kind of draining those natural significations. There's actually two charts with that where it's the third house is ruled by Saturn, and there's also the south node. in Saturn, right? Chart A is like that as well. Um, then chart B, we've got Jupiter in the third, right? Now Jupiter is not in the best condition, but um, you know, it is Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is pretty prolific. Now, for chart A, Saturn's just stationed retrograde, which also weakens his ability. So basically, in the charts where Saturn's ruling the third, Saturn is afflicted to the point where his ordinary um, role of restricting the topic is going to be lessened, right? And so the Saturn is not going to be able to restrict the Capricorn third house like he would by default, right? And then for chart D, the ruler of the third, um, is either Mercury or Venus, depending on the house you use. And Venus is declining from an angle, and it's ruled by Saturn, not in a super comfortable spot. Mercury here is still under the beams of the sun. Um, so basically, this is one chart where these neither one of these planets is in a great position. Now it really is kind of a toss up between D and B, in my opinion, because, um, or yeah, the one with Jupiter in the third, right? The only thing here that I could
So that's
say,
that's
oh,
that's
this is
murder
the wrong
date.
one. The only one
Yeah.
here that I could say, Jupiter in the third. I mean, we've also got we've also got this thing here where Mercury is opposite Jupiter. Um, Mercury is kids, and they like I don't know. I mean, it really is a difficult choice in my opinion between B and D. But uh, between those two, um, D has an empty third house, right? No matter which house system you use. And so if I'm guessing between B and D, I would probably guess for the one with the empty third, right? Alberto, what did you think about this question? You have any thoughts you want to share on it?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's another tough one. I think it's ridiculous because most places will do one mystery chart, and we're like, let's do four. um, but the thing that struck out to me the most is just Virgo on the third. Is Virgo is the least fertile of the signs. Literally, it's symbolized by a virgin, right? This is just the very literal, without even thinking about aspects. Um, and I've been working on some William Lilly stuff lately, and he talks about this. And there are some other charts where the fertility is definitely, as noted, fertility is a little bit weaker, but this is by far the weakest one. Like, this is literally a virgin house of siblings.
Hmm.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I love that analysis. So, let's go check out what the audience said. Oh, looks like the
All
audience
right.
they selected chart D as well, so
The audience
they
got
Nice.
got
it.
it right. Nice. Okay, so well, this means that there is a tie on our
Oh my God,
hands.
what are we gonna do?
Right. Another
Bye.
tie in another Astro Death match. All right, so now it's time for sudden death, everyone. Sudden death. All right,
So
so
fight to the death. Like, what do
yeah.
we do? Like,
Well,
We both take poison.
yeah, I guess.
yeah.
And
How
whoever
about you
survives
guys
wins.
start? Yeah, start drinking bleach, and the first one of you to die loses.
But I don't have COVID. Like,
Michelle, if I'm not wrong, you go first now. So you start.
I knew it. I knew that the toss up was gonna be not in my favor.
Well, we can flip a coin. Here, I can get a coin flip to see who goes first.
No, but
Um,
what do you do when you have a tie? Like, what?
so,
Seriously though,
well, when
like,
we have a tie, so what we did last time was we used the last question with these charts, and just decided that the first person to be able to throw out an accurate read of anything this person has, like their job, or like I know that there's like, a medical condition or a hobby or anything like that. Um, if you guys, you know, um, we could go chart by chart, or I could leave all four of them up for game. Is there any idea?
I know. I was just joking around. I wasn't saying that Michelle should go first in answering. I said he should go first in drinking bleach.
Dying. Yeah, we got that. You got that. I'm not
Whatever you
gonna
guys want to
oblige.
do.
So not at this time, but thank you though. Like very kind of you to ask.
Whatever you want to do, I'm game. If you want to go through the charts, if you want to throw another one, if you want to
That's
do
an
that
ask, but
upfront.
we
How
can
about
try.
this? How about I just make this into like a who is who type quiz, like these two charts. So A and B. This is what we got. So one of these people is has a
The meth lab.
1 second. Hold on. Let me just stop this so I can check my notes. Make sure.
I'm dying to know the legendary owner of the meth lab that shows up in the quizzes, but it's never him or her. Who knows?
Eventually, that will be the right answer. Eventually,
One day, one day. Stay tuned.
So,
One of these days.
You guys are so talented that we with two champions like this, of course we're gonna have trouble. We're gonna have a tie.
Yeah,
No, don't do that.
just send the price.
Compliments are my
by mail.
kryptonite. Don't compliment me.
all right.
What do you mean talented? You're talented. Who's talented? You're talented. Alex, be gentle.
All right. One second. Just I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure I've got the right note on what this person's career is, so that I don't give the wrong thing. We weren't expecting
while
a
you
tie,
do
ladies
that,
and gentlemen.
no worries. While you do that, Marcus, you wanna do some karaoke? We can like sing "We Are the Champions." And then I'll do backing voices. You're Freddy. I'll do backing voices.
I'd rather give you the first spot, the first place. You won. If I had to sing,
Drink
you already
bleach,
won.
sing Queen. It's just
Thank you.
me first every time. Like
thank you for your kindness, but you're the champion, and I don't want to sing it. I just lost.
this
I prefer
is
lose.
the most polite trash talk ever. Like no, please you, sir. No, you are a gentleman and a scholar, so you should drink the bleach.
Yeah, very, very, very diplomatic for a black belt. I thought you would be vicious, and
He is telling me to kill myself. He is vicious.
actually, that's true. That's
No,
true.
no. I said
Don't
we
be
were
fooled
talking
by
about
the
drinking poison of
niceness.
bleach, and I didn't want to start.
Okay. All right. I've got it. All right. Here we go. I need to share my screen again. Apologies.
Show me what you got.
Okay. All right. So one of these people works as an illustrator and a cook. The other person is an OnlyFans model.
Oh,
Who's who?
Whoa.
So
hot stuff.
yeah.
Oh, a cook? No.
Yeah, an illustrator and a cook is
Oh, an
one,
illustrator and a cook. Okay.
and then the other one is an OnlyFans model.
Oh,
So,
How much time do we have?
well, first person to answer correctly wins, right? So, yeah, it's like speed is now part of the equation.
come on, guys. I think I know the answer. I think you can get this.
Okay, I'm gonna say that chart B is the cook and illustrator. Chart A is the OnlyFans model.
Okay. Marcos, do you have a well, I guess I did say that's the first person to answer. So it looks like Michelle wins because that's correct.
Nice.
Good
Wow.
job. That's excellent. Excellent
Yay.
work. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I would,
Can I
I
share my
could lie.
rationale?
Yeah,
So
do you want to share
for
your
that,
rationale for it? Here, let me put it
yeah,
back up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I could just
quickly.
lie and said I was going to say the same thing, but no, I was still looking at the charts when you answered, so it's a clean win.
All good, all good, all good. And nobody had to drink bleach. See, it's so good. Uh,
That's better.
everybody wins.
This
Are
way.
you not entertained? So my what tipped me is I think that the food itself and cooking itself is very second house, and the ruler of the second house is Mars. Mars is in the 11th and with Fortune. So there seems to be some kind of, practical work related to food, and cooking is very martial. Mars in a Leo house is about showing off and artistry, and then you have Venus angular in an angular house in domicile. So there could be, this is a very strong indicator per Paul's technique that I spoke before of artistic inclinations in one's work and activities. Whereas the other chart, not to say that an only models fan is not art, but in this case, Venus is in the house of the body. And Fortune is in the ninth, and the ninth has a lot to do with publicity in a way. But
Yes. Yes.
Fortune, you have the moon there, which signifies the body. It is domiciled, and OnlyFans models have clientele from all over the world, so there's an international component to that. And last but not least, the ruler of the midheaven and the 10th house is the sun in Libra in the 12th, which is a very the ruler of the MC is an important significator of profession, and the sun in Libra is fallen, which has a lot to do with, it has connotations of social rejection, being in the 12th even more marginalized in a way. So, and it's OnlyFans work or sex work in general. It's seen as less than. It's seen as the underbelly. Some don't even think that it's actual work. So in a way, I see more of the OnlyFans side on the chart on chart A, and that's what tipped me in that direction.
Nice. That's really great. And I am very impressed with how quickly you were able to come up with that. Um, that was what, like 30 seconds or something?
Yeah. Amazing.
Hey,
That was
hey, I can last
like,
longer.
yeah, I
Okay,
gotta give it up
okay.
to you, man.
It happens. It happens. Sometimes you get excited and you just like blurt it out. It's just, and sometimes it hits the mark like now. And sometimes it's just like, you know.
Yeah, let me be the gentleman. You didn't last too quickly. You started first, right? You moved first. So that's. I was.
And finish first too. But that's fine. That's fine. We're splitting now. It's just don't. I need my innuendo. Okay, I need my dirty joke.
Congratulations.
That's my
Very
award
nice. Very
for the
nice.
quiz. Oh, I won a talisman.
Yes, yes, you get one of the new moon talismans that I just made. I've been posting about those, the ones that yeah, they really help with the dreams, and you know, if you have it can I know lucid dreaming can be difficult for some people, but I think if you use this talisman in combination with some techniques, it's really easy. Like I sometimes have a hard time doing it, but with this, it's really increased it. And then, the parts of the dreams that aren't lucid, do tend to be like, like they'll come up in the next couple of days. So it's good for dreaming, good for meditation. The talisman is also um, great for, just like, I feel like it enhances my intuition. Like if I'm dealing with someone, like, I can kind of sense their true intentions better. It's like a good, general talisman. And also it's just, Yeah, I think it's really good for helping you sleep and giving you good dreams.
Oh, I
I've
need
been
that.
keeping mine under my pillow, and it's like really nice. So,
Oh, that's great.
uh,
I just noticed that today is I have moon in the first house
mm,
in Libra, and today I just had a lunar return. Like I have moon in 5 Libras, so
oh,
it
nice.
was it was destined, and I need to sleep and dream again. So I'll
Yeah,
report back on results.
yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely. I want to hear about it. Yeah, and this also means that I have once again avoided having to ship one of these talismans internationally. So that's good for me, right? I don't have to pay like the $30 or whatever it is to send this thing to Brazil. So, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go grab one of them if the audience is curious. Well, I've posted on Twitter. It's fine. Everyone, we should probably wrap this up. I'm sure everyone has things to do. But thank you guys so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for playing along at home. And these two guys deserve lots of props. I mean, they did great, and this is really difficult stuff. Like they make it look easy, but it's actually really really hard. And
Yeah.
um, just having the guts to come on here and do this at all, they deserve all the respect in the world. So let's give it up for Michelle and Marcos.
And congrats, Michelle,
Thank
for
you,
the win.
Marcos.
Yeah. I
It
think
was
it's great
very
because you
good.
can learn so much if you watch this, whoever's watching. If you just pay attention to the techniques that you notice, they're each using somewhat different techniques. And Alex has her own perspective. I have my own perspective. So, yeah, I think it's really wonderful to see working astrologers actually apply their craft.
Yeah, so we will be back again with another episode when the sun goes into Cancer next month. We're trying to time these approximately to within a few days of the solar ingresses. All right, so this is the Gemini episode. And then also on May 30th, join me and Gracie for another episode of Astro Live, where we're going to be reading people's charts live on stream. That's going to be May 30th in the evening, or I think around 7:30. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. And thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a good night.
Well,
Night,
thank